Hello, I'm Gail Bird, and today I want to show you a method of faux ceramic I was playing with. Real ceramic pottery is full of science and precision when they're glazes, and while I'm a huge fan of science, precision is not really my friend. We're acquaintances at best, really. So here's what I come up with. The idea is to use a liquid polymer clay as a base for painting already cured polymer clay pieces. The first thing you want to do is find some little lidded cups. These are from the dollar store, and I like using them to mix my liquid clay colors because the liquid clay doesn't dry up until you cure it in the oven, so the cups can be, like the colors that you make, you can keep them forever. Some plastic can be melted by polymer clay, so if you have glass, use that instead. I intended to use up most of what I was mixing here, so I don't mind the plastic in the short term. Next, you want to pick out your colors. I like to have a good base of primary and secondary colors, so I'm setting up your basic rainbow of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. These are alcohol inks made by Ranger, but the Pinata line will also work. Put a few drops of your color into each cup of liquid clay. I'm not remotely measuring anything here because, that sounds like work, but this is play. The lid on my purple ink is a stubborn little monster. I went digging for pliers and I hurt myself. I eventually gave up even trying to get it open, and I found a nearly empty one at the bottom of my box of inks, and I used that instead. Find some bamboo sticks, also from the dollar store, or even like popsicle sticks for stirring the colors together. I got one for each color, and I cleaned them all at the end, although you can certainly clean just the one stick between the colors. But again, I go for easy versus anything else. So you're going to stir, 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 stir. This is at 300 speed, 300%. Faster than I actually did it. But I should have stirred harder because I was focusing too hard on seeing if the lighting and the camera were working out, and I missed a bit of white in the corners of those first few cups. So maybe spin the cup around when you do your stirring, so that you make sure you get all the corners. After the first stir, you can start to adjust your colors. I didn't like the blue at all, and it took a few tries to get something I thought would work alongside the rest of the colors. I started shoving in basically whatever. The red wasn't strong enough, so I added lots more of the ink. The orange was too yellow, and the purple was too blue, so they both got a little drop of red as well. This is just basic color theory from primary school. That's all we're looking for. Once you get your palette ready, pull out your baked pieces. In this case, I have medallions I created using my organic molds, which I have a video for, and I'll add the link for you. I learned from my previous attempts that you shouldn't do this directly on any surface you want to use again. I have some permanently baked on circles all over a couple of my working tiles, so this time I cut some parchment paper to fit under the medallions. It was a little slippery and finicky to work this way. I kept having to hold down the parchment paper with my other hand, but it was totally worth not having a big pile of cleanup at the end. Grab some synthetic brushes, one for each color, and start painting. The first time I did this, I used Primo polymer clay. This time I used Kato because it's stronger, but I didn't realize that Kato has a more plasticky finish to it than Primo. So the liquid clay was having trouble sticking to it. It was kind of frustrating. It didn't have the same, it wasn't creating the same kind of surface tension I was wanting to do. Not sure what the solution would be. I could maybe sand the larger portions down a bit to rough up the surface before I added the liquid clay, or I could try to use a surface prep after baking, like acrylic paint or the prep medium from Swelligant. But I didn't do any of that. I just soldiered on and I hoped for the best. A couple of layers sometimes helped, and I think at the end, after they were completely baked, I went in and put on another second layer to just fill in some holes. And in some places, I think I just added a bit of alcohol ink after the fact. But in any case, paint away. Sometimes you want the background and the foreground colors to blend together, particularly colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. So the green and the yellow will blend really nicely here, but green and red would be too stark a contrast, and they'd just make mud if they blended together. So the green and the yellow in this case, I'm just putting them on at the same consistency. They're both wet, and to make it flow a little further, you just saw the little bottle pop up. I'm using alcohol ink, or not alcohol ink, just pure rubbing alcohol. You get a spray bottle. Alcohol dissolves polymer clay, so it thins it out. That's your thinning medium for the clay. Well, I think they have a thinning medium, but I just used the alcohol because lazy. I'm just going to show you some of the painting that I did. We'll let this run for a little while at extra speed, and I'll pop back in now and then with some ideas, and again at the end. Enjoy. I was beginning to feel the limits of just the 6 colors, so I started mixing a few extra. I taped down another piece of parchment paper and dumped some of my colors in and added a little bit of ink, mixed them together, that kind of stuff. In a few places, I added some alcohol ink directly to my brush, like the pure color, and dabbed it on the top. Adding the dark colors over top of light colors on a relief surface like this, it makes this kind of cool effect. The colors start wicking through each other, and I think it's partly gravity and partly just chemistry in the way that the colors are running together. Here's a bit of a close-up where I'm being a bit more precise with what I'm coloring in. I wanted to really blend the fall colors on these leaves into something sort of organic, making a darker orange, and I'm using the red, and I'm just sort of painting the tips of the leaves, but I'm still letting it all blend together. These came out kind of nice. If you don't want your colors blending together, you can set the first color using a heat gun. You just run the heat gun over the top of your clay for just a few minutes. It's going to partially cure that liquid clay, and then you can add the next color and it won't run in to each other. It won't blend. It creates a bit of an edge, but you can usually get around it. The clay is sort of translucent and it works out okay. After you get all of your pieces painted, you will want to rebake using the manufacturer's directions. In this case, I'm doing about 20 minutes in my toaster oven at just about 300 degrees. After baking, the liquid clay had oozed over the edges and it made a bit of a mess on the sides and the backs, which I expected. That's what the parchment paper was for. But I used a grinding wheel to tear off the edges and clean up the back of each piece. I used the wheel. I was inside of a box. I had eye protection and a face mask because, man, that made a mess, and it was just plastic particles flying everywhere, and you really don't want that. I also didn't want to get dust all over the camera, so here's the before and after of that process. When the pieces were finished, I was pretty happy with the colors, especially with the blending in the spaces between the colors, but I was not pleased with the shiny finish. It just looked way too much like plastic, so I tried a couple of coats of the Swelligent matte finish over top of the liquid clay, and I loved the way it came out. It's not fully matte, it's a little bit satin. It just feels so much nicer, and it seems more like the faux ceramic that I was looking for. You can do basically anything you like with these finished pieces. I used my 4-strand braid technique to turn them into necklaces for wholesale order. And you can learn to do the same thing. I have a paid tutorial on galebird.com. There are 2 of them actually. There's your basic 4-strand braid, and then there's the one with this full technique that I used here. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay creative.